Okay, looks like we have a fun set of materials here today to talk about communication, language.
Yep, language, which leads to literacy.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of pair language and literacy together in this little description, and you can kind of see that I have some literacy materials here, but I also have some language materials that are here as well. So access to communication is super important no matter what subject area we're talking about or what grade level we're talking about. But I do want to start with some of the very traditional kind of materials that we would probably see in a classroom.
Okay.
And I am going to start off with something that is represented in the standards, and that's about comparing and contrasting titles that have the same title, in this case the fairy tales types of series. So we have lots of different types of fairy tales and folk tales, things like that here. So the titles are the same, but the content, possibly the plot sequence, or even nuances of the characters could be different. And so it's important for students, by standards, it's important for them to listen to or read books of the same variety, but then think through, like, oh, were the characters the same in both of those books? Was the setting the same, or were there little differences between the setting in one book versus another? And so one way we can, again, that whole working memory part is sometimes really challenging. So we can expect students to sit and listen to both of these books, possibly on the same day, possibly on different days, but trying to keep all that information in memory so that we can go through an activity like comparison could be super challenging.
Yeah. What can we do to help?
Yeah, let's layer in some support. So the first thing I think is super important, and you're going to see a variety of materials. I'll show a couple of others as well here, too. If we look at a book like The Three Billy Goats Gruff, sometimes it's important for students, for comprehension's sake, to be able to visually see kind of an acting out of the book. So in this case, there are some materials like the bridge, the green grass, the stream that goes underneath, our characters within the book, the troll and the three billy goats. Those are all represented here, and we could actually put this out, a whole scene. We could have the goats on the one side, they want to get across the bridge, the troll is under the bridge. So the students can actually see the book unfolding, kind of the plot of the book unfolding. And you can see that there are a couple of other books here too. So books with tangible materials, I would highly recommend. And not just for primary grades either. Like, even if we're thinking about other subject areas, if we're learning about, like, in the sciences, that's why we have science labs. It's about that kind of tangible acting out. And with math, thinking about all those, manipulative type things we might use. So it's important that books do come along with some type of material that helps us helps students and teacher tell and retell the story. And it is important that students are a part of it, the telling sometimes and the retelling, so they can start to let all of that information kind of sink in. But when it comes to the activity where they're supposed to be actually doing the comparisons, if we have tangible materials or even picture symbols of the setting, scene, characters, plot sequence, if we have two stories, so I'm going to say this sentence strip with little Velcro on it is representing our first story that we read. And let's say as the story was being told, we were putting down symbols or objects that helped us remember the plot sequence. So what happened in the beginning, we can refer back to it. What was happening in the middle, what happened at the end of the story. We have all that kind of documented, and this is our note-taking tool now. So we're going to show this whole sequence. And then when it gets, we save this with this book. Then when we get to our second book, we're also going to pull out another plot sequence strip. And we're also going to have tangible materials or picture symbols. And students can have these individually, or you can do them as a class. But they're going to actually put those out, again, what happened, beginning, middle, end, who were our characters, what was happening to them. And then when it comes time for the comparison, we actually have our visuals right next to each other, and we can say, were the beginnings of the story the same, or were they different? And so students can actually take a look and, oh, I remember in the beginning of the one story, this was something that was a little bit different, or the character looked very different in this part of the story, or the ending was totally a surprise in one, totally predictable in the other, whatever the case may be. So lots of visual supports, tactile supports, super important for storytelling. Characters, so we have where the wild things are here, and having our little characters represented so they can actually like see who these characters are.
Yeah.
I think sometimes is important. But let's talk now about this literacy experience. How will some of our students communicate and participate, make choices, really tell us anything they want to about what's happening in all of these literacy experiences? So for that, I'm going to actually go to layers of communication access.